At 2:31 a.m., my phone buzzed once. Just one quiet vibration on the nightstand. Motion detected. Nothing dramatic. No loud alarms, no panic. But those two words, they changed everything. I lifted the phone, half asleep, expecting a raccoon or a stray dog wandering near my fence. Instead, the camera feed opened to something else entirely. Two men in dark clothing. Flashlights off. Moving slow. Deliberate. One of them kept shining a phone screen at a piece of paper like he was checking instructions. The other? He was already kneeling at my gate, hands working on the lock like he'd done it before. And right there, under the grainy night vision glow, was the moment I knew. The HOA wasn't just poking around anymore. They were planning something. Something big. Something illegal. They had no idea the camera caught every second. And they still didn't understand why crossing my property line would become the biggest mistake of their lives. But that wasn't even the first time they pushed too far. The real moment everything snapped happened in broad daylight, right on my street, long before that 2 a.m. footage. I was walking home one hot afternoon, minding my business, when a white pickup came flying around the corner. It rolled over the curb, screeched to a stop, and blocked the whole road like it owned the place. The doors slammed open. Two guys jumped out wearing HOA security vests that looked like they were ordered from a Halloween store. One was tall and smug, Mason. The other was pale, twitchy, and trying way too hard to act confident. "Afternoon," Mason said, like this was a friendly visit. "We need to talk about your violations." I stepped to the side. "Not today." He moved with me. The twitchy one touched his holster, a real one. That's when everything shifted. My breath slowed. My stance changed on its own. 10 years of training doesn't disappear, it wakes up. I kept my hands behind my back, right where my legal sidearm rested under my shirt. "You've got 3 seconds to take your hand off that weapon," I told them calmly. They didn't. The gun came up. And the world went quiet. I hadn't planned on any of this when I moved to Oak Ridge Meadows. After years deployed overseas, I wanted the simplest life imaginable: quiet mornings, long walks, fresh air. I'd earned that peace. Nothing fancy, just a small home with a garage, a clean yard, and neighbors who waved without asking 1,000 questions. What I didn't expect was the HOA that ran the place like a miniature dictatorship. And at the top of it all stood Tina Marsh, the president. Tina wasn't just strict. She was the kind of person who believed order wasn't real unless she was the one forcing it. She looked like she ironed her clothes twice and smiled only when she was about to deliver bad news. The first week I moved in, she cornered me on the sidewalk. "Here at Oak Ridge Meadows," she said, adjusting her perfect little clipboard, "we expect all residents to follow rules." I smiled politely. "Ma'am, I've followed rules most of my life. I'll be fine." She didn't like that answer. I could almost see the checkmark appear next to my name on whatever mental list she kept. That's how it started. The citations came next. Improper storage of tools. Unauthorized yard equipment. Grass height, half an inch too tall. It was ridiculous. Then the routine checks began. Not by the HOA board. Not by maintenance workers. But by her so-called security division, 2 wannabe cops with vests, sunglasses, and cheap radios. The same 2 men who later pointed a gun at me. The first time they walked onto my property uninvited, I met them at the door before they could knock. "You step on my land again," I warned, "and I'll have you charged for trespassing." Mason grinned. "We've got authority here." "Not over me." Door closed. I should have known it wouldn't stop there. Men like them, power without actual power, never let it go. They don't understand boundaries. They only understand control. Every week the harassment escalated. More citations. More warnings. More inspections. One time I caught Mason taking pictures of my garage through the slats of the fence. Another time the twitchy one tried to lean over my yard, claiming he was surveying. Their confidence was growing. And their ego was getting dangerous. Then came the day they crossed the line. A heatwave afternoon. The air shimmered over the asphalt. The neighborhood was calm, kids' bikes scattered on lawns, sprinklers running, dogs barking somewhere down the street. I was returning from a visit with a friend when the pickup barreled toward me like they were responding to a bank robbery. It jumped the curb and blocked my path. Doors flew open. Both of them stepped out in their ridiculous gear. "Afternoon, sir," Mason said. "We've had reports of code violations. Need a minute?" "No." I walked past. He stepped in front of me. The twitchy one pulled his gun. "Don't move," he barked, voice shaking. My fingers closed around my Glock under my shirt. "You're not police," I said quietly. "Move your hand off that weapon." They didn't. Sunlight hit the barrel. Everything slowed. I warned them. They didn't listen. The twitchy one jerked his arm up, and instinct took over. 3 shots. 1 to the shoulder. 1 to the leg. 1 that shattered the gun clean out of his hand. He hit the pavement screaming but alive. Mason charged. Big mistake. I sidestepped, grabbed his wrist, twisted, and drove my elbow into his ribs, once, twice, until he hit the ground gasping. The crack of bone was unmistakable. Neighbors poured out of their houses, phones recording the whole thing. "Call the cops." They pulled a gun. He warned them. I stood back, weapon low, breathing steady. "Self-defense," I said clearly. Weapon secured. 3 cruisers roared in. Guns drawn. Commands loud and fast. "Hands where we can see them." I raised them slowly. "My weapon is holstered, licensed, and safe," I said calmly. 2 suspects down. 1 armed. They cuffed me, standard procedure, and secured the scene. Paramedics rushed the injured men. The gunman was bleeding badly from the shoulder and thigh. The wannabe tough guy, Mason, couldn't even sit upright. 3 broken ribs. 1 punctured lung. He'd be limping for life. Sheriff Daniels arrived, older, experienced, the kind of man who didn't jump to conclusions. "You the homeowner?" he asked. "Yes, sir." They confronted me at gunpoint. Claimed HOA authority. He looked at their fake badges and nodded. "We'll verify, but it looks like clean self-defense." Then he asked the question that told me he already knew the truth. "You military?" "Navy SEAL. 10 years. Active reserve." Daniels exhaled. Explains the precision. While the men were recovering in the hospital, detectives questioned them. And they cracked almost immediately. They admitted the whole thing. Tina, HOA president, Queen of Rules, Marsh, had hired them to scare me into compliance. She promised them bonuses for making me fall in line. But instead, they ended up hospitalized and handcuffed to their beds. Her charges came next. Conspiracy. Solicitation. Abuse of authority. The HOA board panicked. Members resigned. Neighbors whispered. And the story spread like wildfire, cell phone videos, porch cameras, everyone talking about the day the HOA finally messed with the wrong homeowner. A few days later, Sheriff Daniels stopped by with the official report. "You're cleared," he said. "Completely justified use of force." "Good," I replied. "Maybe now people will think twice before sending thugs to enforce fake rules." He chuckled. "Word is half the HOA quit. Then it's already a better neighborhood." I looked down the street where everything went down, the curb where the truck blocked me, the pavement where the gun clattered, the spot where neighbors stood shaking their heads. Peace returned. Finally. And now I'll ask you the same question I've been asking myself. What would you have done if two fake HOA cops pointed a gun at you in your own neighborhood?